I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is KDot. This episode is about the game against the San Francisco 49ers taking place tomorrow over there in San Francisco. KDot, how are you doing today, man?
I'm all right.
Cool. Me too. This is going to be one hell of a game. One hell of a game. After the loss to the New York Giants, we have fallen to 7-6-1, still technically in the playoffs, but we are now playing one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Since the San Francisco 49ers have traded for Christian McCaffrey, they have lost one game. That was his very first game, where he got off the plane, went straight to the field, and ran some plays. And since then, they've won all their games. I believe 6-0.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
7-0.
Are they 7-0? Okay. 7-0 after that first game. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down the Commanders. Let's go defense first against the San Francisco 49ers offense led by Brock Purdy right now, Mr. Irrelevant, who's quite relevant. Then we're going to talk about the Commanders offense against this San Francisco defense. We're going to have our predictions as we always do. And we're going to conclude with the comment mailbag and the after the pod segment. So, KDot, why don't we just go ahead, get this episode over with, jump into it. The San Francisco 49ers offense, we had just mentioned it, with Christian McCaffrey, a totally different animal. Okay. With Brock Purdy, seemingly a different animal as well. What do you make of the 49ers offense? And talk to me a bit about the impact Christian McCaffrey has had, knowing that you're now Mr. All 22.
Is that a new nickname? I like that one, Mr. All 22.
I think it's cool.
That is dope. We're fucked. No, I'm sure. Look, man, I mentioned it on the last episode. Time to reiterate it. The 49ers are not the 49ers you think they are. Historically, over the last few years, since Kyle Shanahan has come to San Francisco, they've always been in that NFC championship. Are they going to cross that threshold in the Super Bowl contenders? And everybody thought that the thing that was holding them back was Jimmy G. So they did the upgrade as far as Trey Lance, or the upgrade is what they thought was Trey Lance at the quarterback. Nobody really believed in it. I made predictions last year that Jimmy G was going to have a starting time this year. I was right. And now the locker room was not behind Trey Lance, but what they were behind was when Jimmy G, who's their guy, went down with an injury, and you have Mr. Irrelevant shows up. This is a guy you can get behind. You have to look at this guy the same way you look at Taylor Heinicke. Right? He's the guy that comes in, nobody really believes, but he's got balls the size of grapefruits, and he's just in there to make it happen. Now, I know you asked me about Christian McCaffrey as the way he started this entire thing off, and I've already gone on a tangent.
That's
but
fine.
It's a team that I'm excited about if my team's not playing them. Right. Okay. So look, Kyle Shanahan's offense has sort of evolved from what it is that we've seen that happened previous years. Previous years, what you're typically used to is a lot of high percentage passing, run, keep it really dirty. A bunch of guys in the backfield, change of pace backs, just trying to figure out different ways to run it on you. Right now, the difference is that all those years that they've really been doing it, they've been doing it with no name guys. I mean, Carlos Hyde, who was he before he started running for these guys? Who was Elijah Mitchell before he started running for these guys? Who was Raheem Mostert before he started running these? Felt very much akin to what it is like the Denver Broncos used to do with his dad, Kyle, with Kyle's dad, Mike, and what Gary Kubiak would do in Houston.
Excellent point. Yep.
They would turn these running backs with the zone block, with the way that they would run, the one cut up the field.
Our very own Clinton Portis.
That year that he had, those 2 years he had in Denver, were like, holy shit, this man might be
Rookie
the best
of the
player.
year. Yeah,
it's insane, right? Then he comes to a system that he has to put on 20 pounds because it ain't built for him. But the for the first time in quite some time, Kyle Shanahan and these guys have a legitimate stud at running back. Christian McCaffrey is in everyone's circle as a top 5 running back, easily number 1 if you're talking about receiving out of the backfield, right? So this is a guy who, as long as he's starting to understand what it is they're doing with running schemes, as long as he's able to forget what it is the Scott Turner and everybody was doing in Carolina, he's only getting better. And that's the last 2 games he's rushed for over 100 yards. He's getting hot, right? He's understanding, and he's getting good with it. Then you look on top of that, they still have the no-name guys. Jordan Mason last week behind Christian McCaffrey, 4 carries, 64 yards. They have guys, right? Even with Deebo Samuel going out, and Deebo has been, if you don't watch San Francisco, we look at Curtis Samuel as like a discount Deebo, right? They line him up in the backfield, do everything you need to do. That's what they did a lot of last year with Deebo, having him lined up everywhere. Your Swiss Army knife guy. But Deebo won't be playing in this game. But even up until the point before Deebo got hurt, they haven't used him the same way because they haven't needed to. There's no reason to risk the injury in keeping him there when you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey that you could just hand the ball off to. So the running game is the most legit that Kyle Shanahan has ever had. That's terrifying. Then on top of that, the thing that I've been saying more than anything is that the difference in the Kyle Shanahan offense this year is that what you think they do as far as Dinkin and Duncan, the brand on Jimmy G is high percentage accurate passes, high percentage slant routes, screens, this, that, and the other. He's not throwing the ball down the field. Not this year, buddy. That offense has been vertical. Brandon Aiyuk has turned into one of the best deep threats in the National Football League. You look at his stats, pull those up real quick. This dude has been doing everything they've needed him to do as far as what it is you need as far as a deep threat guy. 60 receptions, 774 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Then you also have a guy in George Kittle who's a problem at tight end. 593 yards on 46 receptions and 6 touchdowns. They're converting all these into touchdowns, deep threats. They're playing the vertical game. What they do is they beat you up with the run, that jab, right? And then that haymaker comes with that bomb right down the field, and they do the damn thing. Now, Jimmy G's brand, as far as what he was able to do at quarterback, is still true. He's not a great deep passer, right? But Kyle Shanahan's been like, fuck it, we're going to do it anyway. And the thing that happened was you had a guy in Brock Purdy that comes in that can actually throw the ball downfield. So they've been able to actually ratchet up what it is that Kyle Shanahan has been able to do on offense. The play action, and then beat you over the top. And Purdy has that Heinicke spirit in him. He's not afraid to throw the fucking ball down the field. And when you have the running game that's as successful as they are, with a guy who's not afraid to throw the ball down the field, but can do it successfully because he has the arm to do so, they're a fucking problem on offense.
So let's go ahead and I appreciate the detailed breakdown from start to finish, of McCaffrey, what he's brought to the table, historically what these guys have done with running backs you haven't heard of. And then you talk about Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle, and a 7th round pick rookie at QB that is actually opening up the offense more than it's been opened up in quite some time. So that is what we're currently going up against. Now I'll give you my take, which is that Jamin Davis needs to have the game of his life, right? So, I mean, if we look at what he's been asked to do, right, and how much he's improved over the course of the season. Initially, people were saying he was a bust even before the season began. Then he had a bit of a rough start. Even coaches admitted it. He is primarily responsible for the running back. He is one of the more athletic and largest linebackers in the NFL. He's got a tall individual task of having to guard Christian McCaffrey because Del Rio is going to make him do it. Let's be real. Del Rio is going to make him do it. Okay. Am I saying that's the right thing to do? I'm just telling you what is going to happen. Okay. So he needs to have a monster game stopping Christian McCaffrey because at the end of the day, under center, it is still a rookie. I know he's played very well so far. I know that he has stretched the field so far, and that's great. But Christian McCaffrey allows him to do what he wants to do because the pressure's off him. right? And so this is where it's very important to stop this new toy for Kyle Shanahan, who has been spectacular. I mean, his last 3 games, he scored in each one. He scored multiple touchdowns against Tampa Bay. Against Seattle, he carried it 26 times. People question his durability. Looked just fine against Seattle. We need to, first and foremost, stop that guy. This is the best defensive line that Brock Purdy has gone up against. Chase Young is going to play. I don't know how much, but it's nice to get him back, and I'm sure he's raring to go. But what concerns me, KDot, is on the flip side, talking about our secondary, Benjamin St. Juste continues to be questionable, and limited, did not practice with an ankle injury, Cam Curl, who has been Pro Football Focus's #1 safety in the NFL. If we miss Cam Curl, KDot, how ugly can this get?
It's already going to be ugly.
How much uglier? I mean, because he has made us a lot better.
It gets ugly because it gets uglier way quicker. Yes, you need a linebacker. You need somebody to be able to take care of Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield.
You need multiple to be real, but yeah, go ahead.
You do. And the thing is that if you're really looking at it, Washington has not been great against receiving running backs. Now we haven't had a lot of that tested this year, but if you look at like the Detroit game early, and I understand the defense is very different, or even look at Saquon Barkley last week as far as the targets and everything. So while you need somebody to try to hold Christian McCaffrey in check coming out of the backfield, because you know that's something they're going to do, you still have George Kittle. And the thing with Kittle, and you'd think, okay, if you're going to have the linebacker lined up and be looked at as far as the man, have man responsibilities against Christian McCaffrey, who I take that matchup on their side any day of the fucking week. Then I look at
McCaffrey against anybody.
I just take right, and then but then all right. So Cam Curl or someone in this one of the safeties should drop to try to help against Kittle, and we get eaten in that mid range, right? And looking at, we have not faced a tight end as good as Kittle all season.
Yeah. I don't think we have. The closest would be, I'm just trying to think. Well, Dallas Goedert, obviously a very good one. I think that's probably the closest.
It's Goedert.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, so you got to take care of Kittle, and then you also have to take care of the receivers out of the backfield. And then on top of those things, one thing that we could always look towards as far as the Commanders' defense doing a good job at all season up until last week was, they got the run handle. The drive that New York had against us with Saquon was a back-breaking ordeal. Washington has to play the game of the season that they've had on defense this week in order for us to have a shot. Because we're going to talk about offense in a second, which is where it gets even uglier. But the thing is, the only way that we can keep in this is they have to contain the run.
Mm-hmm.
Big name coming back. Chase Young's finally making his appearance this week. Just got confirmed by Robert, even though anything can fucking happen over the next 24 hours, right?
Of course.
But and you remember Chase Young in that game he had last time we played San Francisco, where he had the scoop and run in for the score.
Yeah.
Because he didn't look good against Trent Williams one-on-one, I'll tell you that.
No.
And yeah, you look at the Pro Bowl. It's Kyle Juszczyk, the fucking fullbacks making the Pro Bowl. Trent's still making the Pro Bowl. Jesus, this team.
Talented.
Really talented. And the thing is that when you looked at New York and said, we line where we do well on defense is where they struggle. We should line up pretty good. And it didn't happen for us, right? Now, even though the defense did do technically enough in the sense of how many points and everything, they have to play the best fucking complete game they have. What is the point of this game is you got to kind of believe that let Brock Purdy beat you.
Yes. Undoubtedly. Yeah.
Look, he's still Mr. Irrelevant for a fucking reason. And he's had some success early, but every one of these quarterbacks at a certain point in time face adversity. And there should be no defense. He has not faced a defensive line as talented as we are. And if we can get back there and rattle his fucking cage just a bit, anything can happen. This is going to be a turnovers. What you got to play your fucking game. Now, the only concern with me with that is that when the Washington, especially defensive line, turns that into the focus, they lose out on the fundamentals, which you have to keep in order to keep that running game in check. So, yes, a lot is being asked of that defense, but it has to be asked, and they have to show up, because if they get the lead going and we can't keep this thing close, it is going to be a long and painful fucking Saturday for Washington Commanders fans.
Yeah, correct. And so it's one of those things where sometimes you're just going to have a matchup against an incredibly talented roster. This is a top 3 roster in the NFL, in my opinion, because you have Philadelphia, you have San Francisco. You could make the case either way which one is more talented. It's close.
San Francisco.
You think it's San Francisco?
It's just the quarterback position. It's the weight for the quarterback position, right? But and yeah, I get the tight end. I get the skills positions that Philadelphia has. But Aiyuk is a revelation. Deebo Samuel being gone hurts, but if Deebo Samuel is healthy in that offense,
fair enough.
Kittle,
if everyone's healthy, fine. But the one thing I wanted to, 2 points of sort of hope. One, this is a week-to-week league. We saw the Giants get the doors blown off of them against the Eagles, and then they came into our place and thoroughly dominated us. Let's be real. I know we had the referee stuff. I know that we were in the game, but we did get dominated. That's one. 2, this team has gone on the road against a really, really good team. We just mentioned Philadelphia and won. So there is every reason to believe that, yeah, they could find a way to do this again. So I know we're talking a lot of doom and gloom here, just because when you look at the matchup on paper, that's always what we end up doing. You look at it on paper and you go, Jesus, like this is a really, really talented team. But there is also reason for hope. And I'm hoping, we all are, that we could find a way to squeeze a win here. Because if we do, well, then we do control our own destiny still, right? And then we have a game against Cleveland, and then we have a game against Dallas, who may be resting people.
Yep,
it's still technically in our hands. So I just want to make
absolutely,
that
and it's
clear.
Any given Sunday, right? Like they play the games. There is no outcome that is predetermined in football, even though the refs kind of make it want to seem that way.
What I would love to see, and I think this is critical to our long-term future, is Scott Turner, either himself or his assistant, take notes on what they see San Francisco do on offense, because he's going to see play designs I don't think he's capable of drawing up himself. I'm just going to be honest. Go ahead, KDot. What is that?
Did you not hear what I said about Brock Purdy being perfect for the system?
I heard you. Do
you not reel it? All right, I'm gonna tell you something before we get into offense shit. Every week before the Commanders play, I'm one of those guys that ever since I was a little kid, I play Madden, all Madden against the CPU, against whoever the opposing team is the upcoming week, right?
Yeah.
I played this San Francisco game, started Taylor Heinicke at quarterback. Now, once again, it's just a virtual version. I have the controls, right? So it is what I'm actually playing as the Commanders against the other team.
Sure.
I threw 2 picks in the end zone with Taylor Heinicke. Every time that I could get down the fucking field, and it was running, going for it on 4th down a bunch of fucking times, and I get there, and I threw 2 picks. Taylor Heinicke's stats going in the halftime were like he was like 2 of 9 with 2 picks. It was shit. And you know what I did? I put in Carson Wentz, and I led a hell of a comeback. Now, it went forward at 2 with 0 seconds left in the game. I didn't make it, so we lost the game. But to me, it was one of those things where with Heinicke in this offense we're about to get to, outside of Heinicke, what you're seeing what San Francisco's doing is the difference between the Shanahan offenses of old compared to the Shanahan offense now is that they are scheming and getting guys open and pushing the ball down the field, right? They're taking advantage of the matchups.
Which is what I was told Scott Turner's doing.
Which is what Scott Turner is doing. The problem is Taylor Heinicke is nowhere near as accurate as Jimmy Garoppolo, and he doesn't make the right decisions that Garoppolo makes, which Garoppolo is great at decision-making. And he also does not have the arm of Brock Purdy.
Would it be safe to say that Kyle Shanahan is probably a better offensive mind than Scott Turner?
Yes.
Okay, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. You're going to see a couple play designs.
There's one guy who's above him, maybe, and that's an argument. Oh, no, that's Kyle. I'm just saying, how many offensive geniuses are above Kyle in the NFL right now?
Oh, yeah, a few. Very, very few, if any.
I don't know if there's any. McVay, maybe?
All I'm saying is he's got to take some notes because we got some pretty bland stuff going on.
But here's the point. But the point is that you know who took notes? Shanahan's taking notes from basically Scott Turner's type of offense.
I believe they're both students of the same school. Based on your after the pod last time.
No, because Shanahan's from a different school than Gibbs.
Okay, but they're two different kinds of West Coast.
Two different kinds of West Coast.
We got the
but you also have the run. But the main thing with Shanahan's is that no. The main thing with Shanahan is the run scheme that's included within his West Coast.
Fair enough. The zone run scheme.
The zone run scheme is
that's
different
unique to them. Yes,
right. Even though counter Trey and stuff, you start seeing certain things that like Joe Gibbs used to do that's similar. But the way that Mike Shanahan came up through what the Raiders and everything that he kind of did back then, is you see a disciple from Shanahan.
I want to see a double pump
pushing.
Fake screen, right down
you
the
mean
middle.
Like the flea flicker?
It was beautiful. No. Oh my God. Okay, you know what? Let's talk about the offense. We're already talking about it. The Commanders' offense is now going against the number 1 defense in the NFL. That is scary as well. So we talked about, hey, a bit of doom and gloom. There's reason for hope. Let's go back to doom and gloom. This is one hell of a matchup because that defensive line is scary. San Francisco produces a lot of pressure. In the secondary, they're doing quite well. They allow a passer rating of around 80 on the season, which in today's NFL, that is very, very hard to do. But they seem to do it quite regularly. D'Amico Ryans is going to be a head coach next season. If he's not, you can say all the things about racism you want to because you'd be right at that point. This dude is meant to be a head coach in the NFL. The way his team responds to him, the way his team plays. After halftime for about 4 games there, they allowed 0 points. And that was very recently. And then after that, they were up so much it didn't matter. They were just like, okay, 7 points here, 7 points there. It's fine.
The highest point total they've given up on defense is 17 since week 8.
All you need to know. Okay. We need to put up more than that. So, KDot, my question to you is how?
All right. How? So one would think the success of Washington comes with running the ball. So Brian Robinson has gotten better. And for some reason, for no fucking reason, we decided that, hey, Brian, you ran the ball effectively in the first half against New York. We're just not going to do it in the second half.
Did you hear Scott Turner go, well, when you look at it, we should have given him the ball more?
I refuse to believe that happened, even though it probably did. So
it's a direct quote.
Yeah, no, that's fucking pathetic. Once again, I love Scott Turner's system. I don't necessarily know if I love Scott Turner.
Only teasing you, bud. Go ahead.
No, I get it. So one would think, okay, you're going to try to have success on the ground. And not against these guys, at least not sustained success, right? They give up like 3-point-something yards a carry, 70-something yards a game. They don't let shit happen against them, against the run. I was actually pulling up their scout. Look at it defensively. They have given up 100 yards rushing 3 times this year. And the last time was in week 7 against
and each of those times they've lost, by the way.
Yep. So
the other loss was 99 yards.
So it goes back to, if you're looking at the way a recipe for success is, you're going to stick with the run. So the thing with Washington is, because the guy that we have at quarterback has so far shown an incapability of throwing us into winning, which is something you'd like to see happen in this game. You're going to have to still stick with the run. It's going to be ugly. They're going to be punts. It's going to be one of those things where the defense is sort of going to dictate how it is we're doing on this game. The defense is basically our offense, or it's the key to this, right? Is keeping them within scoring distance. Keep them within scoring distance. Because look, even if you said it in that New York game, right? We got what felt like dominated, but you're 2 plays away from tying the game or winning it. So like, that's the thing, the margin of error, right? We can't afford to be getting blown out. And if you continue to try to keep the running game going, you run on first down, you got 2 yards. Okay. You're going to run on second down. You got 3 yards. Great. Now you're at 3rd and something. You might run it again just to fucking keep them honest. And then maybe Brian Robinson breaks one, but you're going to have to do that consistently to keep the ball just kind of to keep that clock ticking, right? If that score is within 1 or 2, to keep that clock ticking. And then the key to the game, to me, on offense, however it needs to happen, and whoever is playing at quarterback, because I do think there's a chance Heinicke doesn't finish this game,
that's real.
Is no mistakes, and take advantage of every opportunity. And that's something that I've talked about ad nauseum. It's something that they have not done. You call Mr. All-22. It is nauseating looking at the All-22 of missed opportunities for Washington over the last few weeks, where the defense breaks down, Scott Turner or one of our guys are open, and we don't make the play. That we have an option called, and the wrong read is given. The ball's given to the person that shouldn't get it. Or you had a run-pass option, and you didn't even look for the pass option, even though it was clear that it was right there in fucking open.
Fair enough. Just to quickly highlight some of the players on defense for the San Francisco 49ers, because I think we talk a lot about talent, and sometimes we talk about it at a macro level. Let's jump down to the micro level for a moment and name some of these guys. So Dre Greenlaw leads the team in tackles with 111, which is great. And then in second place is Pro Bowler Fred Warner, who's one of the best linebackers in the NFL. You ask anybody in the league about it, you ask any of the media about it, a lot of people mention maybe even the best, right? Fred Warner. On the defensive line, there is a guy named Nick Bosa, brother of Joey Bosa. He has 15 and a half sacks this year, 38 quarterback hits. We are going to need to look out for him. Our offensive line, has not exactly been the best when it's come to protecting. I know Charles Leno in particular had the highlight last week of Kayvon Thibodeau just beating him, but it's not him alone. There are a lot of people getting beat on this offensive line. We need to have a great game. It's as simple as that, and Heinicke needs to be able to maneuver this pocket more than he ever has. And then I believe I'm going to hopefully pronounce this correctly, but Talanoa Hufanga, who is a safety for the team, he leads them with 4. I believe he also is a Pro Bowler. So they've got 3 guys on defense in particular that are studs and have been recognized as studs by the league. If you look at some of the throws Heinicke's made, and this is coming from a Heinicke stan, he's got to be careful. He's got to be very, very careful when he throws these balls that float a little bit, because they have Hufanga, who is a bit of a ball hawk and is also great in coverage. If you look at his passer rating allowed, he's terrific. So it is going to be tough all the way through. We've talked about it, but I am curious to see, especially after only getting 12 carries and a 13th touch, which was an 18-yard reception, how heavily we utilize Brian Robinson, because even after the game, he had cited play calling. He's like, look, whether it was lack of aggression or play calling, it's not up to me. We're fine. We will learn from it. So he's speaking like a vet, but he's also saying, hey, I wanted it more. Even yesterday, he had mentioned we need to be more aggressive. So you've got a rookie from Alabama. They're typically these guys that are pretty quiet, mind their own business, speaking up and saying, hey, I can do a lot more here. I'm curious to see, with the level of physicality with which he runs, whose will is stronger, because oftentimes Brian Robinson's is stronger. You mentioned him getting nominated for angry runs on Good Morning Football all the time. He got nominated again this week for carrying 8 New York Giants with him, an extra 10 yards. If he wins this sort of battle of wills, we are very much in this game. That's the reality of the situation. He is going to be one of the most physical backs that these guys have gone against. He's already one of the most physical backs in the league. So just because you see the San Francisco 49ers allowed 3.4 yards per carry, which is a league best, they need to go against our guy. And I have a lot of faith in our guy. It's going to be difficult. Don't get me wrong. It is going to be extremely difficult, but I want to see him get the ball a heck of a lot more. It takes the pressure off of Heinicke and hopefully slows down the rush. We had mentioned Nick Bosa, 15 and a half sacks. How do you think we should approach this, KDot? Do you think it should be, hey, I know they're number one, I was stopping the run and we're still going to run it? Or is it, hey, we know they're really good, maybe it's a bit of more short, quick passing, protect Heinicke, make some plays with his legs?
You can try to do the quick pass, and they're good at that too.
That's the
defensive backs are legit. Look, it's going to have to be, it's a run first game, but it's I'd like to say that we'd have somebody back there because of the skills position players that I'd take our chance of throwing the ball down the fucking field. But it boils down to this. I love Taylor Heinicke. I have not seen that he's capable of doing that. And every week that goes by, I'm seeing less capability compared to more capability. I'm seeing that he looked more scared in the pocket than he does look more fearless in the pocket. And if that continues on that trend, I don't see it happening. So to me, run the goddamn ball. Don't forget about Gibson. It's a
Correct.
tandem.
Only 5 carries last week.
They have to run both of these guys together. Look, I get Brian Robinson, you have to feed him the ball, but this is what I keep talking about. I want Robinson near 30 carries a game, but I also want Gibson near 15 to 20 carries a fucking game. Because I think
you want to be Navy on offense.
I want to run the fucking ball. And the thing is that, like, the thing that I always question as far as the offense, I want more split back sets. I want both of them in the backfield at the same time so you don't know what's happening. Because Gibson can run it between the tackles, and he can run it outside. And like I was telling Brian Robinson, if he was paying attention to this goddamn podcast, trust your fucking speed. You are faster than you think you are.
I think he did last week.
And he did. That's the thing. He's starting to learn that he can put together all the different pieces of his game. He is more talented than even he knows he is. Look, he has been running like a 220-something pound running back typically runs, which is, I'm going to run fucking through you. It's the thing that we wish we saw more of Gibson, right? You have two guys with the exact same fucking body style and like two very different ways of utilizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that they just realized, and they looked at each other, almost like the Spider-Man fucking meme.
Oh, sure.
It's like, oh, I can do what you're doing. Oh, I can do what you're doing.
Though, right? Like, and the difference in conditioning even in college, because Gibson didn't have that many carries in college, so he's not used to doing that. Robinson is.
I get it, but here's the thing: if they don't have to, if they stick to what it is they're good at, but just so flashes every once in a while, it'll fuck a defense's mind all the way to fuck up.
Sure, for sure. You know, something I'd love to see, KDot, is maybe a couple running back screens to Gibson, because he thrives in space. I mean, there's a reason he's a kick returner, a punt returner in college, and now returning kicks for us. Put him in situations where he gets blockers in space. I mean, he's fast.
There is no reason Gibson shouldn't be going in motion and a run pass option. And a run pass option isn't Robinson, Gibson in the flat, or Heinicke's keeping it. Like
that could be an option.
That should be something we're going to. Like,
chuck it to Gibson. One of those.
So when you said that Scott needs to look at Kyle, Scott needs to look at Kyle for the running game.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because he's being more, that's the thing that I'm seeing, is that the running game for us feels pedestrian in the way that we're utilizing it. And that to me is, if you have this much talent at running back, utilizing this in more interesting ways. That to me has been the biggest thing that I look at Scott Turner. And I'm just like, that's the part of the playbook that I'm like, you need to do the re-all on, because it's just talent that's carrying you. You need to scheme. And here's the thing: handing the ball to Curtis Samuel in the backfield is not clever any fucking more. There's no,
he shouldn't be getting
coming.
The same number of carries as Antonio Gibson, who is a running back.
Under any circumstances
Makes
whatsoever.
No sense.
Especially when you look at the skill set. There's nothing Curtis Samuel's doing in between the tackles that Gibson can't do.
Yep. And so I just want to mention one more thing. I have a sneaky feeling Terry McLaurin is going to be completely erased from this game. Just knowing what D'Amico Ryans does, what he wants to be able to do, and just noticing the tendency of how many targets Terry will typically get, I think they're going to try and make Jahan beat them. So I would expect Jahan, despite the game he had last week, to maybe be the focal point again. And the same way we're saying, hey, rookie Brock Purdy, beat us, they may do the same thing. Hey, Heinicke and Jahan, you guys have to beat us, because it's not going to be Terry. It's not going to be 17. So that's the way I see it. I'm very curious to see how this all boils down, but let's get to our predictions. Any final thoughts on offense, KDot, before we get to predictions?
I am hoping tomorrow Heinicke takes a step up. I really am. But other than that, if he is struggling early in this game, I don't want any hesitation. Pull him.
Okay. Maybe we'll talk a bit about that after the pod because I don't know my thought yet. It hasn't formed yet on what you had just said. But let's jump to predictions. So right now, the spread is San Francisco -7. So we are 7-point underdogs. The over-under is 37.5, which is quite low, but you can almost understand it. They're actually, I believe the implied total is giving us about 15 points there, which is around what San Francisco is giving up on average. It's insane. So KDot, from you, as always, I need a score, I need a winner, and I need a player of the game.
24-10 San Francisco. I want it to not be this way, and I think that it can be closer than it needs to be. I just haven't seen enough of us on offense to think that we'll be able to stick with this. And the 24-10 thing to me is we score late. This game, I think, gets away from us quick. This is one of those games where, for the first time in a long time, I kind of wish we were playing at home with the weather and everything that's happening around the DC area. It would be that to me would be awesome, but it's not. We're playing in fucking Santa Clara, whatever the fuck they play out in California. This to me just has the markings of, if I'm looking at it on paper, it's not. It shouldn't go our way.
Okay.
So, player of the game for me will be Christian McCaffrey. I think that especially receiving out of the backfield, he has success.
Okay. If I need both St. Juste and Cam Curl to play. If they don't, it's a loss. It's a surefire loss, in my opinion. Both of them need to play, to be clear. If they both do play, I see some bullshit happening. And I see us winning like 20-17. Just because I think we talked about it last week. Heinicke had to play with expectations last week for the first time almost ever. Where he's favored at home. It's a nationally televised game. It's December. It's meaningful football. He goes back to what I'm going to call his comfort zone, which is no one expects anything. Everyone's talking about Carson Wentz again. He's back to chugging beers at Caps games and stuff like that. He knows he's living in the moment. This is where he does his thing, whatever you want to call it. I think he ends up playing fine. It is a week-to-week league. My player of the game is Brian Robinson. I think he ends up getting the ball more. I think he proves that he can run against anybody. And I think that helps us win this game. But again, because if both these guys don't play, if either one doesn't play, I think San Francisco has their way on offense against us. It's just too much to handle without St. Juste and Cam Curl. This defense looks totally different without Cam Curl. So it is contingent on that. But
I so hope you're right. I really hope you're right. And I think I can see it. But I don't know if that's more hope than it is like actual vision.
I'll be real. Probably 80% hope on my end, but
okay,
it's our podcast. We could do what we want.
But like as we said, if they play good defense, if Chase Young comes back and he's fresh on third down and knocking Brock Purdy down, anything can happen with the pass rush and time possession game, right? So like, and it's gonna be an ugly fucking game
because the two starts that Purdy's had is against a lifeless Tampa Bay team with a statue at QB in Tom Brady. He is the GOAT. But he's also 45 going against that defensive line. He can't move. That finished 35-7. Then it's a game against Seattle. I thought it was a masterful plan. Fair play to them. And Seattle, as you had mentioned when I was like, oh, dangerous team, 30th in defense, and it showed. So that was maybe the worst and dumbest thing I've ever said on this podcast. The most uninformed thing I've ever said. I think this defense has been pretty good overall. And so I'm curious to see him go against a good defense, go against the best defensive line he's faced, and actually a defensive line that gets compared to San Francisco. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was District Divided, a DC Sports podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Are we doing
getting to
mailbag?
The comment mailbag right now, which I just realized. We got two comments from Tony. Hey, it's the holidays for everybody, man.
That's fair, man.
We're all chilling. Shout out Tony for the two comments. Really appreciate it. So we're beginning with the first one. So we're scared of a 4th and 4, but we go for 2 when we don't have to. Scott Turner outsmarts himself out of sustained drives. JDR lack of adjustments, not pressing garbage receivers so the D-line has time to get to Daniel Jones, and not running 5 D linemen at the end of the game when everyone knew they were going to run with Saquon. Appreciate the comment, Tony, and you're going to find me totally agreeing once again.
Yeah,
I think there were some adjustments to make, and we didn't.
I just you know what I can't wrap my head around on defense ever.
Good.
And I know I've been trying to do the digging, and I've been trying to find. I don't get soft coverage. I don't understand it.
This little shell defense.
I don't understand when you're, especially on the downage that we play sometimes, where it's like you're just giving them first downs. Like I don't understand how scared you have to be about getting beat up top that you do that constantly. It's so fucking frustrating to me.
You know what I didn't look up, but now I'd be curious about is how many 10+ yard receptions the Giants wide receivers have had all year, because they converted a 4th and 9 to, I believe it was either Richie James or Isaiah Hodgins. The fact that I need to remember those names is insane. Like, I shouldn't have to know who these people are, but that's what soft coverage does.
Yep.
And then Tony's other comment, best case scenario, Scott Turner get a head coaching job anywhere other than in Washington. I would love if he got a head coaching job. That would be awesome. I don't know if a team's going to be dumb enough to give it to him.
No one's doing that.
But I hope so. That would be
based on what?
Amazing. What team?
On what?
What team would? Well, you look at the Raiders and Josh McDaniels. Based on what? He's not good in Denver. Yeah, but like he himself, not a good head coach.
But the thing is that as much as I thought the Raiders.
Adam Gase got a second chance. Remember that? There are some dumb teams out there.
Gase has a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but then he went to Miami, was horrible, and then the Jets were like, "Let's do this."
But again. He still has a Super Bowl.
How long
what does Scott Turner have on his resume that makes him get a head coaching?
Norv Turner is on his resume.
That's not enough.
My dad.
Yeah, and Norv was a terrible head coach. So fuck. What? It's on a note.
I would just let me live in the fantasy world that someone offers Scott Turner a head coaching position after.
I'll tell you what I see. I can tell you exactly what I see. I see Taylor Heinicke going to the Jets and saying, "I want Scott to be my guy," and Rob Slay says, "Fuck it." He's offensive coordinator.
You know what?
He's not a head coach.
Because I want to talk about the Jets, let's go to after the pod. So once again, this is District Divided. This is the actual outro, a DC sports podcast, more specifically a Commanders podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Tony, I'm so sorry we missed the comment mailbag immediately. KDot, thanks for the reminder. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please like it, please share it, subscribe to the channel, and of course, comment as you always do.
Beat them, Commanders. Show us something tomorrow.
After the pod begins now. So the Jets, right? You mentioned that, and you mentioned Heinicke going to the Jets.
I think Carson Wentz going to the Jets is what I really want to see. I want to see Carson Wentz fucking lighting it up in that goddamn green.
Can we talk about Zach Wilson for a sec, though?
And how fucking dog shit he is?
He is horrible.
He's the worst quarterback the Jets have had in a very long time. He might be the worst quarterback I've ever seen the Jets put. And they have some fucking names.
But, you know, the thing is, from an arm talent perspective, there's so many QBs that have the arm talent. He had some absolute wild throws at BYU. Now, there are a lot of people coming out on Twitter and saying this was always on film and all that
hindsight.
Stuff. And that could be true. But I agree. It's hindsight. There is one guy in particular, though. I forgot his name. I think it was like Theo Ash or something like that on Twitter, who actually had a 30-minute breakdown before the draft.
Yep.
And said he had a day 2 grade on him. So props to him because he seems to be right.
The only thing I remember about Zach Wilson was I remember he was ranked 4th for me. I do remember that because I started looking back at old episodes. He was my 4th graded quarterback.
So I'm a big believer in Chris Sims' QB rankings because I think he's had a good track record, and he had Zach Wilson number 1. And I'll be honest, I went with just his gut. I was like, okay, cool. This guy's going to be great. Could not be, what'd you say?
I had Fields number 1.
Yeah, he looks great.
I had Fields number 1, Trevor Lawrence number 2, but Trevor Lawrence is the most talented quarterback, but I said he was going to be a bust because he's going to Jacksonville.
That's fair. But see, that's the thing. I think coaching matters a whole lot, certainly. But Zach Wilson, the individual KDot, is an idiot. I mean, again, that press conference, no, dude, that press conference where they lost 10-3 on the special teams, they said, do you take any responsibility or feel like you should apologize to the defense?
Was terrible.
He goes, no, turns his head, terrible. And his dad had to tell him that didn't look good. He didn't figure that out on his own.
Not yet. But the thing is that Zach Wilson is like every entitled white private school kid that I knew that I want to punch the fucking face.
He's gonna be remembered for sleeping with his friend's mom in like college.
He is.
Like that. That's it.
There was every once in a while you'd be at the Tenleytown McDonald's on Wisconsin Avenue, and it'd be some fucking Sidwell kid or some goddamn
That's Zach Wilson,
and he's in there, and he drove up in mom's Mercedes, and it's like, and he says something to you. It's just like, who the fuck do you think you are?
You're totally right that that's a fixture of the Tenley McDonald's too. Like you do see mom or dad's Mercedes in that McDonald's for some reason.
Yep. They should be going on the one on River Road. They come to the one on Tenley. All right. So it's just that's some upper Northwest shit for you.
For sure.
Look, Zach. He is to me white Jamarcus Russell.
Have you seen the stats? He is white Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah.
Through 22 starts. Yeah.
It's a person that relied on his physical tools for so long against competition. It's not that great. Mm-hmm. And when you get to the other level, you have to work on your game. And sometimes when it comes to it, even if you're trying to, you've never had to before, you don't even know how to learn. And it's just not going to work out for you unless you have a completely rehaul on the way that you do everything. But the thing is that once the game starts going, you don't have time to do that.
Correct.
So this is one of those. Zach Wilson, because of his arm talent, has to make a choice. I think with the new way that they do the rookie salary wages or the scales, he's going to have an opportunity to. Because look, unless he buy much of electric scooters, he might not be set for life. This might be one of those things where he needs to get away from New York, spend an off season going back to basics, retrain everything, and with a fresh start. Maybe he can do something, but it won't happen now. It won't happen.
Right.
Now.
My thing is, now he's utter dog shit right now.
Yes.
That being said,
because that team is good.
That team is really good. They put in just about anybody else at QB, and it comes to life for a little bit.
They're East Coast San Francisco. They're set.
I agree. So you talk about top 3 rosters. I mean,
I'm not going that far.
You can make the case.
Soleil's getting more out of that.
Well,
they're built really well. Yeah.
One could make the argument. You would have to do some convincing, but I could see them there.
Yeah.
That being said, the idea that his career is over is such an insane overreaction in such a QB-starved league.
It's easy to see.
Considering the talent, people constantly try and save the talent. This happens all the time. He will be a backup somewhere, and he will get another chance to start. Absolutely. But I don't think it's happening in New York. I think that's done. But he will certainly get another chance, maybe even 2 more chances.
I mean, depending. That's the thing is that it all depends on the situation. I mean, there are guys that get different starts, but I mean, it's like you said. I think he's done a pretty good job as far as like a reclamation project of his image since the fiasco at that press conference. Oof. He's been saying much better things even after that pathetic showing that we saw where he got benched for the CFL guy.
Shout out Strav, yeah.
Jesus. And that motherfucker was just out there just, all right, I'm gonna run it.
You hear the cheers?
Yeah, it felt like they won a fucking Super Bowl when he threw a first completion.
Yeah.
It was insane. But Zach,
I love Jets fans.
Like it's just heartache. Heartache.
I know.
Man.
I feel for him.
I don't feel for him as much as other franchises. Yeah, fuck him. But
I feel for him.
I don't feel for the Jets as much.
Dude, they've had to live with the Patriots winning every fucking Super Bowl, and they've been dog shit this whole time. Like it.
Yeah, but I don't even look at the Jets.
Now they have a roster, and this is what's happening. Like that's tough. I feel for him.
Nah, I can't.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I just don't put him in a set. Like well, you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, up until this last year, I used to feel for the Browns. I used to feel really, really bad for the Browns because the Browns are sitting there, useless ass franchise. They had Bill Belichick at one point. That goes away. They see the success that the Ravens have, which is their team.
Oh my God, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like in their division, they have to stare at this. That's our team. Like we have this expansion bullshit franchise, but that's our team over there, and they're winning things. And it's just the fans in Cleveland. The only thing that I give them shit for is basketball because of what they did with the whole LeBron shit.
Sure.
Fuck them on that part. And then Deshaun Watson, they have lost it.
Also on the note of the Ravens, I know that Lamar and the Ravens have not come to a long-term deal yet.
Yep.
But everything you're seeing about Lamar Jackson potentially going somewhere is all clickbait. They'll franchise tag him. Absolute worst case. He's not going anywhere.
I don't think he plays on franchise.
They'll still keep him there. They
I
won't
get it. But
Right.
but here's the thing to me. In the NFL, at the end of the day, now we've crossed over to me into a position in which you have to get rid of the guy who doesn't want
I
to be
think it's turning more into the NBA in terms of the players getting more
Yeah.
power.
And
You see that with the trades. Devontae moves. Tyreek moves. Russell moves. Like
if you're the
it's-
Ravens, can you afford not getting anything for Lamar Jackson? Especially when you know you can get everything for Lamar Jackson.
Dude, he's
if he
already been
doesn't
a
wanna be
league
there.
MVP, and how old is he? Like, I mean,
If you're Washington, what aren't you giving up to get Lamar Jackson? Look at the entire roster. What's not on the trade? What's not for sale?
you have to. This would energize the franchise. You'd have
There's
a new
literally
owner.
nothing.
Like, it makes all the sense in the world.
Unless
Getting a new
they want-
stadium becomes easier. Everything becomes easier.
Unless
to
they
get
want
that guy.
Payne and Allen. And even if they want
No,
Payne
even
and
if they
Allen,
do, I hate to say it, you do
you're
it.
probably doing it.
Yeah,
Because you're like,
you
well, we
do
got Young, we got Montez, Mathis will be back.
You
And
won't
we
do
got
it.
Lamar. You got to do it. If you're the Ravens at that particular point in time, yes, you want Lamar more than you want anybody else, right? But
Mhm.
if he says, and I do, my thing is that I live here in Baltimore and I know what
Right.
Lamar means to the city. There's
He's not
nothing to be
going anywhere.
driving. There's nothing to be driving around West Side and you see a small crowd in the shopping center is Lamar. He means so much to this fucking town.
He is not going anywhere.
I doubt he does, but I'm still hoping. And I will tell every Ravens fan I see he's leaving and he's coming
Dude.
down 95 and he's going to be in the Burgundy and Gold and it's going to be with Sean Payton because he's going to fire
You know
him.
how cool that would be? But if I'm Lamar, I'm looking at the aforementioned Jets as a team that
Nope.
is really good.
Nope.
Garrett Wilson. What's his name? Elijah Moore.
Jet stank.
Brees Hall is a great running back.
Put
You
that
gotta see
Jet
how he
stank
comes
going.
back. I
That
think if
Jet
anybody
stank-
can overcome it, it's okay. That's one. The two, and this
Plus,
is
I
the
don't
big
think
one,
he thrives
which
in New York.
think
I don't think Lamar's a good New York guy.
But here's the big one: Miami.
Easy.
Let's see what
Easy
happens.
peasy. Lemon
Let's
squeezy.
see what
He's
happens
amazing in
with-
Miami.
Right? That is fuck. All of a sudden, Kansas City is like just got interesting, right? Like right now, I think they're still the cream of the crop. The Bills, maybe Burrow and these Bengals look good, but if Miami gets this guy, Lamar Jackson, with Tua, with Tyreek, with Jalen, like, and Mike McDaniel and that running game that we've talked about in San Francisco, mother of God. That is
I think he's built for Miami. I think him in Miami works.
I think
It's
he
just
wants to.
certain cities I just don't see him in. And I think
That's fair. That's fair.
But the
Miami's the
Baltimore,
big one. Miami's like the clear number one
Yeah.
destination, in my opinion. for him.
but Baltimore just makes sense. But I just don't know. The Ravens have their way of doing things, and
do.
if they're still holding it, and it's bastions of the Bill Belichick Cleveland Brown era that they have some through lines where it's no one person's above this, that, and the other. But when you look at that contract they gave fucking Joe Flacco, they're gonna have to break the bank and they're gonna have to break the records as far as guaranteed money. And it's just that's what it's going to take. And if you get to a point where you have to franchise tag Lamar Jackson, it's a travesty. And at that point, they need to trade him because they failed.
That would be a colossal failure. He will stay in Baltimore. Can we talk about more stuff in our realm? How about Jeremy Reeves making the Pro Bowl and how awesome that video was from the
I cried.
Commanders? Who didn't?
Yeah.
Literally everyone.
Bullshit.
And Tress Way's reaction, right? Like, so he gets named to the Pro Bowl. It's not his first one, fine. But like, excited. When he finds out Jeremy Reeves
He's
is
so
named
stoked.
and he
Yeah.
immediately gets emotional, and Rivera's like, he's currently in a team like defensive meeting and he says, pull him out of there. Can I be here for it? Like, that was KDot. That's true love, my friend.
The Reeves is all when you know about what's happened with Reeves, even with this team. If there's something that was going
His
around. His
my
mom,
gosh,
all that,
man.
like the sheet that's been going around on Twitter about the amount of times he's been waived, signed to the practice squad, signed to us, and you see him get to a Pro Bowl level, that mentality of not giving up, of sticking with it, of
His
doing
tweets,
things.
man, every single time, even if he got waived, I'm not giving up. I'm still here. Like, amazing.
It's just that is the story of stories. It's the thing that makes the NFL that so special, or makes sports special, right? It's those moments when you're a kid alone with a football in your hand, dreaming about playing on Sunday or playing Madden and creating yourself. It's those moments in which you have, and for some of us that are blessed physically to a certain degree, but have the tenacity and have the spirit, you can do it. The odds are so stacked against you, but for a few, you'll get there, and it'll be because of what you did to get there, and for the fact that you didn't give up to get there, and it's awesome. It's fucking awesome.
Think about the number of times he could have quit, right? Like, so first off, being a pro athlete in particular, a lot of them, the best ones, talk about the importance of their mindset and their consistency and their routine and stuff like that. If you're getting waived over and over again, what is the routine? Like, what is the consistency? What is he, in all those moments, continued to find confidence within. That is why, to me, it is one of the most amazing stories, because he had numerous times where life was telling him basically quit.
Yep.
And he said, no, I'm gonna keep going. Gino talked about how haters, wrote him off and he didn't write back. Great line. This in particular, I mean, you see his emotion. He doesn't say anything. Wow. Now I'm getting emotional again, just thinking about it. Like, it was dope. Really, really cool. And props, I know that we have our disdain for the organization and stuff like that with Snyder, in charge and stuff like that. But that was a really fucking cool moment. And I think one of the moments of the NFL season across the board was that video showing Reeves' emotion, making the Pro Bowl.
I remember talking to, I'm not going to say his name because awkward as far as relationship, but it was through my ex-wife. But, he was a guy who played for quite a few teams in the league, including the Ravens for a period of time. Mm-hmm. He's out of the league now.
Joe Flacco, yeah. Just like, go ahead.
Played tight end, but he to hear about that grind, to hear about the uncertainty, to hear how much he had to keep going. Like, you hear the Taylor Heinicke story about living on those story. It's a rough fucking go, man. It is a rough thing to do. You have your family, everyone else is in a state of pause. You're never quite sure what's going to happen and where you're going to go. You're chasing the job. The guy I'm talking about in particular, he went all over. I mean, spent time on one team, went to another team, went back to the first team, then went somewhere completely different. And then had some moments, little brief moments that you thought, okay, maybe, and then you didn't make the roster. And it's just,
I know.
Fuck.
Think about that, man. The number of relationships you have to make all over again at a new place. If it's the third or fourth time, there could be a thought of, here we go again. Some self-doubt. Like, it is, I don't think people talk enough about, in sport, in life, this applies to all of us too, those dark moments and how isolating they can be. No matter how talented you are, no matter how good you are, your ability to overcome makes you a much, much stronger person. But my God, is it hard at times, right? And so for these pro athletes who have literally been some of the best players in college, right? And then all of a sudden see younger people, because all the while younger people are being drafted. There's a draft every year, like, coming in with a certain amount of pedigree. I'm talking about their draft stock. It's incredible. Hats off to all those people that continue that grind over and over again.
The one guy I talked to, he was telling me how, because of his roster spot, until the last team, they cut him before his career is basically over, because he's still trying. A lot of guys didn't even want to get to know him because they didn't think he's going to be around.
Isn't that right? So
the isolating part of, like, you're trying to maybe even be you're trying to, like, and everybody's just so like, dude, come on.
It's not talked about. It really isn't.
Right. Whew. But I feel for him. He's a good guy, and I hope he catches on with somebody. I think he has talent.
Think about Gandy Golden being put behind the 8 ball, being switched to tight end. We drafted Cole Turner. Right. Yep. Like, I mean, they're just little things, like John Bates last year. You think he wasn't making the team? Like, it's immediately Logan, Turner, Bates, unless Gandy Golden plays so out of his mind at a new position that he takes one of their like that's just.
I wouldn't mind fucking seeing him with the output we get right now. Say that.
I know, right? Yeah, I was gonna say. I don't know what AGG's up to, but we may well have a spot, my friend.
Solving Rubik's cubes while bowling.
Yeah. Probably figure out this 49ers defense. Maybe he should call the plays. Talk about offensive coordinator. Give it to Gandy Golden. I know you're thinking about it.
I just want Scott Turner should give up play calling duty. I don't think there's anybody on the staff that should have that.
I've done my job. But he has the opportunity here. Look, he can call he has called great games. He has.
I'll go back
about
to
consistency at the quarterback position. Wanted at the coordinator.
He would call a great game if Carson Wentz is quarterback.
Okay, and we tell you what. To your point, we may see it.
I think there's a good chance because you can hear in Ron they wanted to do it in that game. Ron wants to do it.
Guy. That's the thing. He is still Ron's guy, which is why each time you hear Ron talk about it, or
I don't like that. I don't like the way that's said. Because I don't. There is no. This team
that's how it works,
rocks.
KDot. He traded for him.
Hold on, but this team rocks hard with Heinicke.
Yes,
Scott Turner rocks hard with Heinicke.
Yes,
like these guys love Heinicke. They have a history with this dude.
They do.
They love him. But they more than anything, they know what he's capable of. More than anybody knows what he's capable of. And they saw even after last year, we need an upgrade. So I don't think it's not Carson Wentz is like it's Carson Wentz is the same way they thought in this last offseason. They knew who they had in Taylor Heinicke. They made the upgrade. I don't think it's for anything else other than there's a reason we did this, guys. We believe that there was somebody better. And if there's somebody better, we need to be going to that guy. But they haven't found a legitimate enough reason to do so. What won't cause a mutiny at this point because of how much cock everybody's munching on.
Oh, dude, that after the pod rant was all time. The number of people who reached
really
out
frustrating.
Were like, that's incredible.
But I'm saying the thing on Twitter and everything is because you're starting to see people that are in my camp behind this thing, which is not we're not like these Carson fucking lovers. We just are we're Taylor Heinicke realists. I think is what we're talking about. I think there's an idea, and it's okay. There's an idealistic aspect of Taylor Heinicke that makes people believe. It's a hope and a spirit and a feeling you get with the guy, and you're winning games. And as long as those two things become the case, I think
the reality is neither one's the guy. I think the reality is neither one's the guy. The only guy we don't truly know about is Sam.
I'm just of the idea.
We may figure out quickly he is.
I'm of the idea that I think everybody else's was on the idea that Carson Wentz was an upgrade over Heinicke. And my thought is that this offseason, and my thought, same way I always say, is that when this season started, this team was not playing. And not just because of Carson, who needs a learning curve because he's new. And everybody talks about how fucking you give every quarterback that's got to learn a new system a curve. Period. That's just something you do.
That's fair. That's right. I hear you on it.
But beyond that, you also had a team that was playing fucking piss poor football. Defensively, we're playing like shit. There was no running game established, and the offensive line was changing from quarter to quarter.
He still started 6-7 games, and
I'm not saying that he didn't, but I also know when Carson Wentz was in their quarterback, he was doing some things fucking good. And the thing is to me, the storyline there, the narrative that exists, right? Yeah. With Taylor Heinicke compared to Carson Wentz is what bothers me. Is you have people that like go to bat for this dude, and I'm like, I look at Carson Wentz and. Why isn't the story about in that Chicago game where he broke his fucking finger and still played through it? He gutted through it. Like that to me is a
the block on Roquan. You remember that? That was live stream.
There are so many fucking moments where you look at it and you're like, why would anyone question this guy? Like, but we don't talk about it in that rarefied air.
I don't hate Carson Wentz.
I don't think y'all hate him. I think that you guys love
No. Hold on. Not you guys. I'm just talking about me individually.
Oh, fair enough.
Don't fucking group me.
Oh, I'm grouping all of you. I'm sorry. It's just gonna happen.
I know. It's been happening. All I'm saying is I don't hate Carson. If there has been enough mental change, because I still think that needs to happen the way the team's playing aside. that needs to happen. We talk about the importance of confidence. We talk about the importance of routine, et cetera, and stuff like that. And to your point, there is a learning curve that comes with a new offense. So I hear you. If the mental changes have occurred and the coaching staff sees it, fuck it, go ahead, because he may be the guy. All I'm saying is I don't believe that is the case. I just want to make that abundantly clear. That's my position.
I haven't seen enough to make a ruling on whether or not the trade for him was worth it.
Okay,
that's where I'm at. So I haven't seen that yet.
So we got to wrap up the segment. Quick yes or no. Does Carson Wentz play this Saturday? Tomorrow?
No, and I think it's to the detriment of the team.
I'm going to go no as well, just based on my prediction. That being said, I think
really
you and
upset.
I both would not be surprised.
No,
if he ends up playing. I don't think anyone should be surprised if he
should start.
But you're just going to throw him back in against the number 1 defense in the NFL?
He should have been starting for He should have been starting since last week.
I'm willing to bet if we go
since last week.
If we go 3 and out, he might honestly.
It's not going to happen. That won't happen. That won't happen.
We talked about
Taylor
throws. Ron wants to.
It'll be 2 turnovers. 2 turnovers or a 2 score deficit going into the second half. I think those are your benchmarks.
I think it'll only take 1 turnover.
If it's 1 turnover,
like it has to be a Heinicke turnover. It's like if Brian Robinson fumbles, that has nothing to do with.
I thought he should have been benched after that fucking fumble touchdown recovery against New York.
Dude, I blame Taylor for that. Okay, you talk about the all 22. I saw it on that one. He had nothing.
Blindside.
Ron said. I know Ron said he needed to get rid of it earlier.
Yes.
Look at his read. Hold on, but completely.
No, get rid of it.
Completely draped.
Get rid of it. You can't take a sack there. Get rid of the ball, asshole.
I would say his pocket awareness is generally good, and
it wasn't in that game.
Good there.
That's the point. It's you have to not try to make the play. Get rid of the fucking ball. You can't get hit there.
He was trusting our man of the year.
What happened,
my friend?
Even if he doesn't fumble, what happens when he gets sacked right there? How close are you to the end zone?
Yeah, but he's not in it.
Fuck out of here, man.
All right, we got to go. We'll talk to you guys later. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We'll see you on Monday.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.